that's a separate mailing address. And we want to emphasize that.
Eventually, I think we have that in our...
We see constant growth every month. It's not huge, but it's definitely improving every month.
Three transgressions and 4 for Israel. I will not revoke the punishment because this is...
In Carleton County, we've gone from about 200
Water's righteousness like an ever-rolling stream.
I have 3 children, and obviously they drink a fair amount of milk and dairy products, and I'm real concerned about BGH.
What does that mean for food security? Japan, 20% of their country is in the...
having Bayfront Park for that weekend, if we can.
We feel that when a consumer goes to the grocery store, they have a right to be able to choose milk that has been produced with RBGH, as well as milk that hasn't been produced with RBGH.
There is always the threat of a decrease in state aids, and it's getting more important that we do something about it.
It's hard for Danielle Pigeon to believe anyone would hurt her brother, let alone murder him.
It's going to make me treasure the time that we have here, make me not take things for granted.
Friday morning, a couple driving by saw Bear Track's body near this bridge just north of Watts, Oklahoma. Authorities say he'd been shot in the head with a semi-automatic rifle similar to this one. Apparently knowing he was in trouble, he left behind a vital clue.
Yes, we found written on his left arm in 2 different places what appeared to be a license plate number.
The sheriff says Bear Track wrote the numbers with a black magic marker and a ballpoint pen. Investigators ran a check on that tag number, and up popped a 1993 Ford blue-green Mustang. The sheriff says that car belonged to suspect Brett Adams.
Mr. Adams, did you do it?
Arrested and charged with first-degree murder are 23-year-old Brett Adams, 21-year-old Howard Russell Murray, and 25-year-old Joe Dale Cox. Families and friends of the suspects are shocked. Todd Barnes knows Cox.
The boy ain't got a bad bone in his body. I can't understand it.
Watching the case closely are members of Northeast Oklahoma's American Indian movement, who believe the murder is racially motivated. Bear Track is half Cherokee Indian.
Well, there's no story that they could concoct that would justify what happened to this boy.
Meantime, the prosecutor says he's found no evidence the murder of Donald Bear Track is a hate crime.
Raising canned goods for those in need around the Twin Ports. And how much do you think we've picked up so far? I know a lot of people have swung by.
And some people have even donated money, which, by the way, for every dollar that is donated.
We get $1 match, and for every pound of food in, we get a pound of food credit, or actually $1 food credit. That's through Minnesota Food Share, and it's all, which is part of a national program. This is our month where we can really capitalize.
Because of their situation, a lot of them being on fixed income, these are the most sensitive to any changes that go on in government. So if there's changes in water and gas rates, if there's any changes in street improvement programs, property tax, being on a fixed income, they're most sensitive.
It was one morning after breakfast. He had had his breakfast, and I gave him his cough medicine, and I somehow got distracted. He somehow got onto the counter and drank what was in it. It was partially a brand new bottle. When I looked, it was less than a half an inch.
Henry was bleeding from his finger, and I was wondering whether or not this lizard was poisonous.
Very sleepy, saying, "Mommy, I want to lay down." But once I gave it to him, he threw it all up, and it was just a blessing that it worked that fast and that effective. And I'm just thankful for the Poison Control Center and the very quick and effective information they gave me to help my son, because if it wasn't for that quick information she gave me to help my son, I'm quite sure he wouldn't be here today. So I'd like to thank those, personally the woman that was on the phone who received my call today. I called in my very desperate state.
About 3 weeks ago, Henry was bit by a lizard. We'd been visiting my next-door neighbor in the evening, and she has a pet lizard. It's really very small, only about 3 inches long, and only about as wide as 2 of my fingers. And Henry reached out to touch the lizard, and I thought, oh, how nice. The little boy's gonna pet the lizard. But Henry didn't pet the lizard. He grabbed the lizard around the middle, and he squeezed. And this lizard, in fear of his life, bit Henry on the finger. Well, now this sounds funny in retrospect, but it was not funny at the time, because Henry's my first little boy, and I was a panicked new mom at this time. Henry was bleeding from his finger, and I was wondering whether or not this lizard was poisonous. Now, my neighbor assured me that her lizard was not poisonous, but at this point, that wasn't making me feel very much better, because I was really concerned about my little boy.
Eagles are protected by both state and federal laws, and there's several federal laws that protect them. The Endangered Species Act is one, the Eagle Protection Act, and it carries penalties of up to a year and a $100,000 fine for killing of eagles. The state officers, the state conservation wardens, are in.
So 14 found by the DNR. And
they were south. It's kind of between Webster and...
Was there any follow-up to last year? I mean, was there any, did you ever figure out?
Investigators moved quickly last November, arresting Jamie D. Jardine of West Duluth, charging him with first-degree sexual assault and attempted first-degree homicide. Days after his arrest, Jardine attempted to take his own life while in jail. He failed. Investigators say the attack was sexually motivated.
It appears that he went in there looking for sex, and when it was denied to him, the result was the attack on the employee there at the massage parlor.
Her testimony was that she did not consent.
That it was forced sex, that it was rape?
That she didn't consent to any of the intercourse, and that it happened after he had handcuffed her and pointed a gun at her.
The victim, a 22-year-old Superior woman, was beaten in the face and shot in the thigh. Bloodied and unable to speak, she eventually made her way across the street to the main club, where an employee called 911.
going to go in and get
the people up there. So in order to keep up with demand, we've had to go out to outside vendors. We're having quite a bit of work actually performed for us at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and also in Fargo, North Dakota, and in Thief River Falls. And we're planning on bringing a lot of that work back here to Grand Rapids so that we have more quality control on it.
Well, thank you very much. This is really a delight. Let me, if I may, we would give away money. How much is it for, by the way? Just $1 million, Governor. Only $1 million? Only $1 million. Oh, thank heavens I mentioned Kirby's name. Okay, who's going to receive it? Well, if nobody else wants it, I'll take it.
They really become friends. I don't want it to sound, I don't know, rose-colored glasses, but they do. They truly become friends, and they respect each other equally, and that's a really nice way, I think, to work in a town. They're all going to live there, so they should respect each other.
My livelihood, my investment. I'm moving out of here with all the bills that I owe, with no way to pay for them.
Claire Koski will lose the lease she's held on this convenience store at the end of the month. 4.5 years after she paid $20,000 for the business, the Harborview Resident Management Corporation is offering less than $5,000 for her inventory and equipment.
Resident Management Corporation wants to see changes made here at Harborview for the better, for the residents. Right now we have a convenience store that isn't convenient for us.
Harborview is just one of the subsidized housing projects operated by HRA of Duluth. It leases this small convenience store for $100 a month. Claire Koski's caught up in their bureaucratic nightmare. The North Star Community Development Corporation and Harborview tenants have teamed up to take over the business as a means of training residents. Once Koski's out, 2 people from the projects will replace her.
I guess I feel that being that my income is the way it is, and that I am also disabled and a woman, that they shouldn't be working against me.
It's a simple business deal.
HRA Director Rick Ball says Koski got taken if she paid $20,000 for the business. The former owner has confirmed the price. But Ball claims Koski agreed to take less than $5,000 and was given ample opportunity to submit a new bid to continue operating. She didn't, and now she'll have to leave.
I have nothing else to fall back on.
President Clinton talked in terms the Serbs would understand about the use of force.
We must make the Serbs pay a higher price for continued violence
so it will be in their own interest more clearly to return to the negotiating table.
The president announced he wants NATO to expand airstrikes to cover a half-dozen safe zones in Bosnia. But NATO must first agree. And then there's the Russians. Mr. Clinton got on the phone to Boris Yeltsin to sell him on the idea of bombing the Serbs. Yeltsin didn't say yes, but didn't say no either. On the diplomatic front, the U.S. will take part in any international conference on Bosnia. But in Congress, there were new calls to arm the Muslims against the Serbs.
In the name of God and decency, how can we not lift the arms embargo in Bosnia?
Today, Senator Bob Dole will introduce legislation that would unilaterally lift the embargo. But the president says his hands are tied.
Do I favor lifting it? I do. Do I believe the allies with whom we are working now would vote to support it? I don't.
President Clinton says he's thought about what to do next if the Serbs don't respond, but wouldn't talk about it. Jim Miklashevsky, NBC News, the White House.
You're not categorized as a tree hugger if you care about the environment. Today, it's hip to want to save the planet. That's the message from many Northlanders celebrating Earth Day.
Is this green or brown?
Superior Central Junior High School students were out in full force in what could be called an Earth Day field trip.
Oh, you got the big one.
From crushing cans, collecting oil, to separating the recyclables, students learned what Earth Day is all about firsthand.
Well, you get to learn like things about the earth and which things are good to recycle and what things shouldn't, so you shouldn't buy a certain kind of product.
Any of you guys got any Kleenex or anything with you?
Science teacher Mark Howard says education is the key to a successful Earth Day.
Just to start with, just to make the students aware of the need to watch our environment, and then to involve the community in the positive work with the students.
We've all heard the phrase, Earth Day should be every day. Here at UWS, biodiversity rules. But regardless of the semantics, the message is the same. Protect our environment today, ensure our future tomorrow.
And we kind of hope that today people will get interested, learn a few things about different issues in the environment, and then with that go on and continue their interest in the environment and keep it going throughout the year.
In the Twin Ports, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
At night I fly beside him in the sky.
Saying every day is Earth Day, Native American dancers opened this concert for the environment.
It's nice to be here in Minneapolis this time.
We're living in an earth that is finite and that's not going to last for a long time, and we need change.
That's the message, and the medium is music. A nationally known lineup playing and preaching the power of change.
We want you all to be thinking about the environment, what you can do to help. Know your power. That means two things. One, your personal power, that you can make a difference.
We use the concerts to get the people in and have a celebration, but it's the engine that fuels all of this education, awareness, and action.
Rhythm and blues and some rock and roll fueled a crowd of more than 10,000, mostly young people. Meanwhile, exhibits and demonstrations offered more environmental advice and action. Angie Stanton and her friend Lisa gladly did their part by paying $100 each.
Think of all the bands that are here and what they're here for. Money's not forever. You can't take it to your grave. That's right.
It's been a very, very difficult 48 hours, but I believe that we now have things back on the road ultimately towards a peaceful solution to this problem.
Have to all be together, working together on this problem because it's a problem.
Those kids need that heart. They need the personal involvement of parents, of teachers, of principals, of community leaders, of rabbis, priests, pastors, counselors in the city, whatever, anyone that can help them, because they feel so alone. The most common problem I see among our kids, mayors, is that this will be underway. Hi, y'all.
I want to thank you all for coming today.
And then put your foot on each side. There. Okay.
We've learned how to start a fire with flint rocks and what kind of fabrics are used to make clothes.
For example, the kids will be sitting on the floor of the wigwam listening to stories while they're making a dream catcher or some other item. And as they experience that, they will internalize the information and take it back with them to the classroom.
On for some really nice door prizes. Either that or I get to take them all home. So if you just want to...
I find it real interesting to try ones that you don't normally run into. Oh, yeah, you bet.
Let's tune in to you may use your part.
You're on 6?
Yeah.
Great.
Do you feel optimistic?
Well, I'm always optimistic because things are so fluid down there and change from day to day. Very often the money that we've received came to us in the last day of the session, so I'm pretty optimistic yet.
It will take some last-minute maneuvering from Northland politicians to get the funding zoo officials say they were promised. Neither the Senate or the House have included the zoo in their bonding packages. Zoo manager Basil Norton says the money is desperately needed to finish construction. An increase in zoo revenue and donations have helped, but officials say they are counting on the $3.4 million in bond money to bring the facility up to par.
If we did not get the bonding, it would be a terrible disappointment. It means that we'd be set back by several years, but eventually that's going to happen, and the zoo is going to grow and develop, and we're going to finish the zoo one way or another.
In 1986, the city of Duluth and Fond du Lac Indian Tribe entered into an agreement to build Fond du Lac Casino. The contract split the profits 3 ways. 1/4 goes to the city, 1/4 to the tribe, and the remaining 50% goes to a joint economic commission made up of the city and the tribe. Then, in 1988, a federal law was passed saying Indians must have control of their casinos. It is the definition of control that is under legal scrutiny.
I think that the ownership and control aspects mean that the sovereignty of the Indian people have to be respected, that they will make the decisions and control how they will produce their economic future.
Since the 1988 law, many Indian-owned and operated casinos keep about 70% of the profits, leaving about 30% for the city in which the casino operates. Talarico says if that's the offer made this afternoon, Mayor Gary Doty will probably ask the council to accept the offer. Still, 2 major lawsuits from the tribe are pending.
One major area is over the parking ramp. We have another issue over the contract and the 1988 law, and I think there are collateral issues.
Is the city countersuing?
Oh, definitely. We are claiming the breach of our contract.
What would really be valuable is a real concrete look at what's been happening in the last 45 years in terms of real incidents where the police are involved in dealing with a person who is residing there.
Based upon the fact that these institutions are not governed by the city of Duluth. I think the Lions letter is involved in this, and you can schedule a meeting between all of those parties if that is your desire, and we would go to the sources that are involved here and see what can be done. As far as the issues of safety to the public,
There was couple of them that were gone for like 4 hours at night, you know, late, when there wasn't a lot of staff at all.
Introduction of contraband into correctional facilities, as an example, is covered by Minnesota statute. So we would be looking at possible criminal charges.
As you have heard today, that the importance of this university in this region. We have the buildings and the space available to accommodate additional students. Increased enrollment here will actually make us more efficient as a campus. In addition, we believe that what this campus does can have a very considerably positive effect upon economic and regional development here in the Northland, and therefore growth is important to us.
That he might have been employed? There was never a domestic. There was one other situation in which charges were filed on a complaint of Mrs. Stubbs.
What was that?
I believe that was threat to do great bodily harm.
Exact figures I don't know. This weekend we typically do see an increase in just general traffic, and we see more fishing hats come through the lobby and that, so it is definitely a boost for us at this hotel.
All of society teaches us that the way that we deal with conflict is through violence.
That didn't happen overnight. We didn't just wake up one morning and here we are with all kinds of troubles.
We are in a very decadent society the last decade and a half. We're in a flight from responsibility. It's me first, adults first, children second. I have to make myself happy before the children will be happy.
Wayne is also here, serving on the judges panel from Kids Network. We've been coming in here every Tuesday.
Drew Middleman is a dentist and calls himself a lefty,
But look closely over his shoulder. He uses his right hand a lot at work. Dr. Middleman is actually ambidextrous, just as coordinated using either hand.
This is really helpful to be able to use my opposite hand and actually accomplish something positively when I'm working on a patient. I think it really does. As I've done it more, I say, wow, this is really great to have.
Margot Coletti works as a librarian and is right-handed. So what, you say? New research on careers and the concept of handedness shows that dentistry is one of the professions with the highest numbers of ambidextrous people, and librarians have the highest concentration of right-handed people.
Measuring a person's handedness may be one way to measure or get a reflection of that individual's brain organization.
Dr. Stephen Schachter, who's ambidextrous, by the way, studied more than 1,000 professionals in a number of different fields. Careers using strong verbal skills attract more right-handed people. Those that use more creative and spatial talents have more lefties. And many that require a lot of eye-hand coordination, like surgery, attract those who are ambidextrous.
There's some findings in the study that are intriguing, and we still are looking for a logical explanation to explain them.
Remember our ambidextrous dentist? His son is just the same. For Ross Middleman, learning to write in kindergarten was a bit confusing.
I used to start off writing an R with my left hand, then a O with my right hand, then a S with my left, and so on. And so the teachers, they looked at me and they would know. I mean, I couldn't go on writing like that for the rest of my life.
For NBC News, I'm Lauren Scott.
We're going to be taking people out of the prison, providing training for them in our communities in St. Louis County, and eventually being able to give them some jobs. And hopefully, they won't come back into the system.
Level. One of the top 10 in the world riding a horse that's over for the year. Here they go! Hey! Come on, red level. Front of the back, back of the side.
Well, that, I thought, if it started, it always goes up.
Hey, hey, hey! How about
An attorney rushes to court for the latest round in the battle over these twin girls, Felicia and Natasha Schlafer. He obtains a writ from a judge this morning.
Directed to any sheriff or constable within the state of Texas to take the bodies of the two minor children, Natasha and Felicia Schlafer, and to deliver those children to the possession of the family court services.
As that occurs, the twins' guardians are in the district attorney's office about possible action against grandmother Phyllis Duracek, who is believed to have taken the girls she was to have given up on Friday.
We are in what is called the early intervention stage, where we are making an attempt to get a voluntary return of these children, and we anticipate that that is what will happen.
She's known since Friday that this was our step Monday morning, and she had all weekend for her attorney to contact our attorney or for her to contact the DA's office, and that hasn't happened, so I don't have a real lot of confidence that that's going to happen.
Geary and her husband are the legal guardians of the twins. Their father, who died of AIDS last year, specified in his will that he wanted the Minnesota couple to care for his children And that's when the battle began with his mother, who lives in Houston. It has been a long and difficult struggle.
Well, after a weekend of just such intense emotion and anxiety and fear, we feel really relieved so far today because, you know, we had high hopes for this meeting and for what would happen at the Family Law Center this morning with the writ of attachment, and both things are going very well.
As for Duracek, her attorney in court on an unrelated matter today said little.
I told you I'm not going to tell you whether or not I've talked to her.
What kind of services are you providing or not providing that the other services might be for this cut rate?
I feel at these rates, what the residents of Morgan Park are accustomed to paying, that they're going to be saving $120 a year. Who wouldn't want to save that money, put that money in their pocket instead of...
You didn't use Becky or I for that one.
I noticed that.
These t-shirts were donated from a...
Then we have them in a club. And once a month we meet. My kids and I will be here during Duluth to work with other kids. My kids will be working with the other kids talking about aviation, and then we have several projects that they'll be working on with them.
Such as white wings. Don't make faces at us. You're not playing fair.
Lighting system on this one is quite a bit better. We've incorporated a command module in with this for large incidents. This will have cellular phone and fax capabilities for hazardous material response.
These are veterans from throughout the country. We do not want to segregate any one group of veterans. We feel that all veterans made it possible for us to be here today. Therefore, we felt we need to be honoring all of them.
Greg Wilson is one of nearly 50 people out of work since a fire destroyed 3 neighboring businesses last month in the town of Orr.
It's a tremendous loss. It's such a big change just overnight that we have to adjust to.
Today's spaghetti feed is a display of neighbors helping neighbors, carving the ham, boiling the noodles, cutting the French bread, and of course doling out the sweets. Area retailers have pitched in as well by donating all the food and door prizes.
All the benefits are going to go to the 49 people who are put out of work. I've got a commission set up with a minister and several other people to disperse the cash into the Orr community to be sure that they all get it evenly distributed.
Cleanup in Orr is expected to continue for some time, but those affected by the fire are banding together to rebuild their community.
It's been a really fantastic how they've really come together to help us out and to get the town back to where it should be.
In Cook, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
Yeah, very good.
It's the desk where everything happened. And you can see, I'm sure many people sat here and said, oh gosh, I didn't do it. You know I didn't do it.
These are Evelyn's right here. And we have obituaries. That sort of thing. We have about 80 of these books.
Eyewitnesses say 38-year-old Keith Willett was driving down Mesaba Avenue when the tires on the dump truck began smoking. The owner of the trucking company says that's a good indication the truck's brakes were hot, becoming virtually useless.
Well, if his brakes got hot on them, they drag, but they won't stop you. They'll hold your speed down, but you still gain speed if they get hot.
That may explain why the truck wasn't traveling even faster down the steep grade on 2nd Avenue West. What's still in question, though, is why the truck was on that avenue to begin with. The official truck route to the job near Old Central High School would have been 6th Avenue East. In fact, other trucks going to the site yesterday were using 6th Avenue East. City engineer Ken Larson says truck routes in Duluth are set up with the city's steep hills in mind.
Considering the steepness of the roadway is one of the criteria for locating the truck route. It would be our goal to try to put trucks on the flattest slopes and to keep them off of the steepest roadways as much as possible.
Investigators are still trying to discover how the driver ended up on the extremely steep grade of 2nd Avenue East. Meanwhile, the owner of the trucking firm says he checked the truck's brakes before the driver left for the day. In Duluth, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
What I'm fearful of is that polls tend to lull our support base to sleep and they won't show up on September 13th, and there's a surprising number of people who believe that because I'm governor that I am automatically on the ballot in November.
All intents and purposes at this point, I think it's kind of being played by ear in terms of people who have heard about the vacancies, have expressed some interest to some of the councilors. Their names have been considered to fill those vacancies. However, my sense is that there are a number of other people that have today indicated additional interest.
In their final sound check Saturday, they sounded sharp as ever. Rock's original bad boys evolved long ago into mellow millionaire middle-agers, but they can still play. They've been a band since 1962, 32 years, longer than any rock group ever. Most people who come tonight can't remember a time without the Rolling Stones.
And someday, baby, we got to meet.
Now they've got a new album, their 22nd. It's number 6 on the charts. And this new world tour is their 12th. Mick Jagger once sang, "What a drag it is getting old." Now he's 51. The rest of the guys about the same. Turns out it wasn't a drag at all. They're having fun. And they'll make a fortune. Their last tour, in 1989, grossed $318 million. This tour could do better. But they're far too sharp to call money their motive.
What about all the beer you can drink and all girls down the front? I mean, there's other things than money.
First things first, boys.
By mid-afternoon, die-hard Stones fans were arriving at RFK Stadium, and not just kids. 40-ish Ann Ryan brought her daughter.
She's learned to love all my music, and she loves the Doors, she likes Janis Joplin, she likes the Stones. All my friends are like, "You're going to the Rolling Stones concert with your mom?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she liked the Rolling Stones before I did, so, you know, it's really weird."
This may be nostalgia night for many Stones fans, but the Stones themselves hope to prove they're as hot in '94 as they've ever been. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News, RFK Stadium.
He did it without any help. They're doing good. Good time. Good time. Good.
What's scheduled for that day? That's there's something. We had something on our calendar. You can have
the week of the 14th, the concert later.
Even with the number that have already expressed interest, we're confident at this point that it looks like everybody who wants to work there will be back to work, and there may even be some hiring.